we are reading the Motivation Manifesto, and we are going over the intro in chapter 1. And Natalie is our fearless leader.
Hey, good afternoon. Happy Halloween, everyone. I hope y'all ate your fair share of chocolate and candy today. I have. All right, so this book I found fairly interesting. I know, sorry for the short notice on what the book was and how much to read. And even though it's only about an hour of content, it's actually 2 because I had to read it twice. So in case you guys have to read it twice too, it'll be like 2 hours each time. This one was really interesting because I brought down my speed a bit down to, normal speed to really absorb it and listen to it, and found that I really need to listen to it twice because the way that it reads is very unique. The introduction with the Declaration of Personal Power, it was almost like he was reading bullet points, I felt like. And so it was kind of hard to follow and really, pick up what's the message or motivation or next steps here. But I think one of the things that I'm finding with reading this book so far is that it's almost like a journaling book. He says some stuff, and then you almost need to write those questions down or those observations down and see where that fits in your life and your work. So with the introduction of the Declaration of Personal Power, the biggest point I got out of that was, why do we participate in the society's rat race? And I just thought it was intriguing how observing other people, observing ourselves, and I feel like we as far are definitely growing through each of these books and getting away from that wake up, go to sleep every day, the same kind of a motto, and really started thinking about those people that don't do that, the ones that are kind of in that rat race of hurry up and do your thing and go to bed. What were your guys' thoughts on the rat race and kind of reading through that section?
Well, like on the intro, as I was reading through it, I just thought to myself how easy it is for us to consistently fall back down. And then as you start thinking about where you are in comparison to society, I think that we all continue to just get on that wheel and forget to get off of it. And I think that's why so many people stay at the pace they're at, or in the job they're in, or where they are, because they just don't ever make those changes consistent enough to get off that wheel. And it just felt like a really good reminder of where I feel like maybe I once was. To your point, Natalie, I feel like I am starting to read these kind of books, and I'm not, by no means am I perfect, but I am 100% more cognizant of where I am and what I'm doing with my time and how I'm using my time and the choices I'm making and the decisions I'm making. Craig and I just bought a house. It was very spur of the moment, but I don't think we would have ever jumped that quickly at such a great opportunity. Like, oh my God, I pay 25% and get 50. Like, how often do you get to have that kind of deal? Well, really often, if you look for them and you're willing to get off out of the rat race. So that's kind of how I felt in the intro part. Was I felt a little validated, to be honest. I feel like we're killing it.
Yay. That's good.
I found the declarations kind of interesting. It leads into the freedom chapter pretty well, because it's like, it almost kind of says, okay, well, these are your declarations, you follow this. I mean, you're gonna free yourself, right? And I don't know, I just feel like with the rat race, not to foreshadow, I mean, I feel like it's a huge fear factor. Nothing about chapter 2 being called fear, but it just seems like it's just a really big fear factor, right? It's which we know this, right? And as soon as you conquer that fear, it's like, okay, well, in yourself now.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue into another section in this declaration.
Yeah,
No, perfect. The demons of doubt, which is the fear. And like, I felt like that would be a good journaling thing to write about personally, each of us, mean, not really a question I can say, what are all your demons, but to each of you, but I think maybe it's something that we each could reflect on is what kind of demons do we have that are holding us back from our personal freedoms? And I mean, of course, naturally, we should defeat those demons, but he also says, practice joy and gratitude, keep integrity, feel love, amplify love, inspire greatness, and slow time down, like live in the moments and in our, what's happening now, and not hurry everything up. Like everything's such a hurry. Eat fast, get ready fast, drive fast. All this stuff is fast, fast, fast to what? And it's, it's the end of our lives, basically. So it's interesting. So I mean, to wrap up the Declaration of Personal Power, he says, wake up, live in the moment, not in the future. Don't wait for society to say it's okay to do something or be yourself or have your freedom. This is your time and your life. So very inspiring the second time I read it. In case you guys didn't read it twice too.
I feel like I probably have to listen to it probably 3 more times, or at least 2 more times, but a total of 3. And I don't know if I had trouble tracking his impression. Like, I don't know if it was really kind of sinking in very well for me in that sense. I mean, I was listening to it, and I did listen to it, in regards to getting up and kind of, being true to yourself and kind of taking care of and not be paralyzed by indecision or fear or whatnot. So it kind of says the general principles on it, but I gotta tell you, like, I felt myself like you would kind of make a comment, and all of a sudden I start thinking about it, and I wish I had a good example of a comment that he made, and then I squirreled away. And my brain was in a totally different way. I'm like, oh, I should do this, I do that. And I'm like, oh shit, I just missed like 10 minutes of this of the book. And I have no idea what he's talking about. And then I kind of get back into it. So I think I probably need to listen to this author twice, and the way he reads and kind of, and I don't know if it's a matter of maybe if I actually read the book as opposed to listen to the book, it may have a different impact as far as in my absorption of the material. But I did struggle with a little bit of the absorption, other than the main points of it. I definitely kind of, and again, a part of it, I think I had kept squirreling and, incorporating into my own personal life issues that I deal with, paralyzed by fear numerous times throughout my life. And they're afraid to take that step to some. Sometimes I take the step too quickly, but been there, done that.
Right there.
I've been there a couple times, unfortunately, but for the most part, anyway, that's kind of my take on it. I'm still kind of getting my feet wrapped around this conversation. Now, I did like a lot of it. There was a bunch of extra information in regards to, being true to yourself. I think the last book they were talking about, kind of finding your purpose, right? Picking out who you are and motivating and doing what you got to do for yourself, and don't be afraid of who you are.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good, because that was one of my bullet points too, is like another journaling thing of what are your dreams and where do you want to be when you grow up, and what is it that what is your vision of your freedom? And it's kind of funny. I recently found one of my old journals, and in one of my journal entries was one of my teachers assigned, what do you want to be when you grow up? And even back then I was indecisive and had no plan. And so now, even now looking, to my future, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? It's still like, it's not, there's no definite clear path that I want to go other than keep on growing and being better. And so I think, yeah, some good journal entries here. But yeah, I agree, Craig. It's definitely reading hard, and that bullet point. And I think you're right. I bet you in the book, it's probably structured nicely where it's in a paragraph and it's like nice and clean and concise, and finish that thought before they go on to the next one. Because I
definitely have some struggles with, kind of causing my brain to squirrel out, where if I'm reading, I'm absorbing and I'm forced to kind of keep paying attention to the next word if I want to continue to reading. Where, yeah, I mean, I don't know what it was with this book, but I just kept squirreling.
All right. Well, so on to chapter 1. So he does have us broken out into, I think, 2 sections. There's 3 chapters in the first section on human nature. And so we just read the first one about freedom. And so it's neat. He says, seek personal freedom, which is on social, financial, time, spiritual, emotional, and creative freedoms. And then, of course, derail fear and oppression to find that personal freedom. And then find our own freedom. And it was interesting too, he says, you know, is there, like society, are there too many doubts about too much freedom? And he gave the 3 examples of the man who's obsessed with more power and continue to get more, he wants more and more and more. But in the way, is that freedom? He's still trying to play to society norms and to, you know, be what people think is, you know, a free person technically. Or else the woman who, you know, has the perfect nails, the perfect hair, the perfect photos on Instagram, and everything's perfect, and always trying to be portrayed as that perfect image of a woman. But where's the freedom in that? She's not who she wants to be. She's trying to be what everyone else wants her to be. And then he said, this one's interesting. The one that's probably the worst is the entitled person who thinks that everything is for nothing and the world owes them everything. And so that person has no freedom because they're blaming everything on everyone but themselves.
Right. So this this kind of made me think of my dad. And so basically, so your earlier comment, you know, when you were younger, you kind of were indecisive about what you wanted to be. When I was younger, I was only indecisive about what I wanted to be because I didn't have confidence that I'd actually be able to make it. And so since I was like 17 or 18, I've actually wanted to be an investor because that's why I went and got into accounting. And so it wasn't until about, you know, my dad was, you know, kind of saying stuff on his deathbed, you know, and kind of saying, you know, basically he just told me, he was like, you have so much knowledge, and then there are so many people on the street trying to do what you're doing, and yet you know how to do it, yet you're scared to do it. Right. And so he just over and over just tried to drill the message, obviously to me and then other people as well. It's just like, you know, whatever it is you're trying to do, just go after it. Right. Don't sit around. Don't let it scare you. Don't, you know, it's just, you got to find a way to get into it, you know, because it's like, I don't know, for me, ever since then, I've kind of thought to myself, I mean, you're going to get judged regardless. Not just do what you want to do. Right. So that's kind of what this chapter made me think of. And then, I mean, even if you really think about it that way, to me, that's my freedom, right? It's like, okay, well, I mean, I'm going to do what I want to do. If people are not going to like it, I mean, it doesn't really matter. At least I'm doing what I wanted to do to begin.
Yeah. And do those people truly, really matter?
Right.
Most likely not. And could you even identify those people? Is it just those people, or is it like him and her?
It's those people.
Yeah. Isn't it the worst? Those are demons.
So I like this chapter. I thought it was kind of a good point to touch on when talking about human nature first, because I think everybody does feel like, hey, we want to be free. We want to do all the things we want to do. And then he talks about how we kind of easily fall back into our own prisons, right? Whatever that looks like. And at the conclusion of the chapter, he starts talking about a little bit more about what it truly is to be free and not be confined to societal norms or whatever. And I just thought it was a really good reminder of staying focused and making sure that you are focused on your goals and your dreams and your hopes and all that kind of stuff so that you don't lose your freedom. Because I think that's the one thing that keeps you there, right? Is staying focused on those things. So you're making the decisions that get you to those moments in life to where you're not confined to whatever societal norm you're trying to confine yourself to in that moment.
Yeah, it's definitely finding, he says, free ourselves of vanities of modern world, the lazy, the greedy, the narcissists, and then joyously seek what we desire in life, self-mastery and social paralysis. And that was just the first section. But then the second section, he went into a cause interrupted. And that was the comforts fitting in, pleasing others, or our personal desire for freedom. You know, those people. There's a show right now that's coming out. I don't know if it's on Netflix or what, but it's called Mr. Chow. And I just seen the review for it, if you guys have seen it yet. But it's interesting. He's an artist and he likes to paint and such. And they talked about how he was afraid to, you know, or not afraid, but he was told, don't do that. You know, people aren't going to accept you if you paint. You need to go into restaurants. And so he opened up like an amazing restaurant, does amazing. And I haven't watched the show, of course, but you could only imagine that he has so many regrets for not doing what he actually passionately loved, which was the painting part. And so it just made me think of this book here, that, you know, how much we conform to others' opinions because we are afraid to do our dreams.
Mhm.
But yeah.
That's a cool show.
I know, it sounds interesting. I'm sure we probably would recognize it if we actually watched it, but I do think, so to wrap up the chapter, he said personal freedom is responsibility to choose who we are above, beyond our impulses, needs, and I think soul. Be who we want to be, live how we want to live, and have that legacy that we desire. Like, huge. And I think the other neat thing is he defined freedom as the belief that we are responsible for our own beliefs and our behaviors. So if you blame the way you perform or the way you do things on, you know, society expects me to do that, then you're not free. And I thought that was a good measurement. You know, a lot of his points, I'm like, okay, could we take that on a scale of 1 to 10? Where are we at today? That this is who I want to be versus this is what society is making me be.
8.5.
I'm sorry?
8.25. That's my answer.
It's that 1.75 on TikTok that knocks you down.
Always TikTok.
Just yeah, so that basically wraps up the chapter from the review, but I guess it was a little bit eye-opener to think, you know, what are our dreams, and do we have them wrote down, kind of spin off from last chapter of what, or our last book of what do we envision retirement being. And so this is kind of interesting because it's not retirement, it's what do we want to do right now, and who do we want to be right now, so that we can achieve that retirement of our dreams. So
right, which I feel like is kind of a big point, because some of the other books have kind of alluded to this as well, but it's, you know, I guess the more clear you are on where you're headed, what you're doing, what your goal is, I mean, it just makes it all that much easier. And I feel like this book here, it's just kind of, you know, focused on that.
opening your eyes, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read another quote recently. It says, do it, like, you know, whether it's going to work out or, you know, going to make those phone calls or whatever it might be, and do it today because the person 5 years from now will thank you for it. And I think it's those first steps that will get us there. And so taking those first steps to achieve this freedom.
Right.
And in a way, did we even know that we didn't have our freedom?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that the life they're living is more of a prison than a free life, because they come and go as they please
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of areas, but the areas that actually matter, the ones that you look back and go, oh, I wish I would have, those are the ones that they stay so stifled in. So I'm excited to read this now because it's time to plan for next year's business.
Oh, yes.
So I think it's a good mindset book to get you in planning mode. So I am excited to read it.
You need to go get it, that's for sure.
Any more thoughts on the intro or chapter 1?
No, but I will read twice next week. So can we do just like chapters 2 and 3 so it stays around an hour? Because I agree with y'all. One time was not enough to pull it all in.
Yeah. Chapter 2 and 3 is only 1 hour and 17 minutes, or 2.5 if you get to read it twice.
Fair enough.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Then I will see you guys this time next week.
Sounds good. Have a great day, guys.